Hi everybody, it's Peter Stockdale, the host of the Spin Market Report. Are you looking for a new place to advertise your business? With over 85,000 YouTube impressions and 20,000 total streams across all platforms in the last 12 months, the Spin Market Podcast Network could be the prime space you've been looking for to advertise your business. Get a hold of Spin Market today and see what advertising on a podcast can do for you. Visit www.spinmarketwith2ks.com or email digitalagent@spinmarket.com for more information.
It's the Spin Market Report. Here's your host, Peter Stockdale.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? We're sitting back down here, Spin Market Report. I got Lindsay Laufersweiler joining us today. Lindsay, you're the Webster County recorder?
Correct. All
right, so let's start off with a nice softball question. What is a county recorder?
I love it. Well, the county recorder, we wear a lot of different hats. We record public records, deeds, mortgages, any property transactions that go through the county. We issue birth, death, and marriage licenses.
Okay.
And then we issue hunting and fishing licenses and register and title boats, snowmobiles, and ATVs.
All right, so you basically take care of just about any sort of record that has anything to do with anything going on in the county then.
Yeah, so we like to say that we're the heart of the county in our office because they can't do anything without the document being recorded. So then from us, it goes to the county auditor, to the county assessor. The auditor transfers the property in the transfer books. The assessor then can assess the property, where then the treasurer then collects the sales tax to the property. So it's kind of one big circle, one big happy family.
Wow, that's crazy. So is that I guess that kind of leads into the next question. Mm-hmm. So how does your office contribute to the smooth functioning of the county? I'm assuming you just mentioned a handful of the items there, you know, making sure that the paperwork, all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, everything gets to where it needs to go.
Right. And, the interesting part about that is the county recorder, we are required by law to record anything to us that meets document formatting standards under the Iowa Code under 331-606B.
Okay.
Say that again really fast, all right?
331-606B.
I'm very familiar with this document. No, I'm just kidding.
So our responsibility is to put things out for public record. So we are not going to say, yes, this is legally correct. We just have things that we have to follow under the code that allow things to be recorded. So once they are that, then the auditor's office then says, hey, yes, this property does transfer. No, this property doesn't transfer. And then they have to go back to the preparing person if there's any issues. So.
Wow, that's a lot of paperwork.
It is a lot. But we're very proud of the work that we do in the recorder's office. We are very efficient, which we'll talk more about that here shortly.
Yeah, in a past life, I had a job as a mortgage adjuster.
Okay.
So I didn't deal too much with what you're doing, because what I did, I would ask somebody else to do it, basically, because it was a segregation of duties.
Okay.
But, that was something where it would be like, I need something done with the title on this. You're going to have to get a hold of somebody to get a hold of the recorder to figure out exactly what's going on.
Correct.
And that was out of my scope but it was still one of those things where when you'd send somebody off to do it, you're like, man, these county recorders how much paper are you dealing with, and I mean, we're going to get into technology a little bit here later, but so what are some of the most important duties that you do at the county recorder office? Maybe perhaps that the public might not know that you're actually there doing.
We always joke in our association that all else fails called the county recorder's office. But no, realistically, we're there to serve the public and help direct in any way possible. The fun part of our job is we do register those off-road vehicles and then hunting and fishing licenses that people don't always know that we deal with, because we do a lot of other paperwork. So, and the fun segregation between the DOT with the treasurer does on-road vehicles, and we're with the DNR and does all off-road vehicles that not always everyone knows about that.
All right.
Yeah.
When you said hunting and fishing licenses, is that, do you record them, or can people go in there and buy them?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I remember growing up, you could go to grocery stores and things like that and do it too. Is that something that's also available, or did they quit doing that?
Yes. So you can do it currently at Walmart. And then there is the Iowa Outdoor store that has previously sold them in the past. But a portion of the money does stay in the county then when they are issued from our office. Cool. So we do like to advertise the fact that, hey, come see us. Then hopefully we can keep property tax dollars low.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if somebody goes elsewhere to buy it, do you still have to do the recording on some of that?
Nope. It's all done through the state.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, geez, the more you know.
See? It's fun stuff in the county recorder's office.
Yeah. So let's talk legal and property matters in the community. Like, how does your work support that?
Yeah, so we often have abstract companies coming into our office because we are an abstract state. So when property does transfer, that abstract then does go follow the property with the property owners. So we, like I said, record the document, make it public record, where then the abstract companies can come in and add it to their title, their abstract, and then the attorneys then are able to do their title opinion and say, yes, this is off to go.
You may want to explain what an abstract is, because if somebody has never bought a house,
yes,
they may not realize what an abstract is.
It's funny that you say that, because in our office, one of the gals that started about 6 years ago, she said, I never knew the importance of that abstract until I started working here. She goes, it's now in my lockbox and fireproof safe. So what the abstract is that is the history of the property. They go back 40 years. But it will tell all the past property owners. It will have all the liens, mortgages, all that listed in there. You'll see the plat of surveys, those sorts of things. So it basically is anything that has to do with your property is in your abstract. So super important pieces of paper.
Well, I know in our building that we're in, this is over 100 years old, just this building. And when I look at the abstract, it's back when the fort was still here. And,
oh my goodness.
And it's that far back.
That's awesome though.
Yeah.
Being able to look back at those
and see the drawings that they had and everything. It's really amazing.
That's one of my favorite parts with Leadership Fort Dodge, when they tour the courthouse. And so one of the gals in the office, her thing is plats. And so she pulls a plat. So if we have the original plat of the city of Fort Dodge that we pull from 1854, and then we just pulled like the Crossroads Plaza. And so just to see the difference of what things looked like in 1854 to where they are in 2025 is like, whoa. The size of the plat was this big, and now they're like 24 by 36. So. Oh,
wow. So does an abstract also cover like modifications to property then? Nice. So it's pretty much everything. The whole history
of the property is in the abstract.
Wow, that's cool.
And if you lose that abstract, you're looking at like upwards to $1,000+ to get.
Wow.
So don't lose it.
Yeah, it's just. Is it just because it's so labor intensive to get all that data like collected again? Wow, that's crazy. Well,
and that is not anything that we do in the office. There are people that come in and say, "I need a copy of my abstract," and we're like, "There's 2 abstract companies in town. Reach out to one of them, and fingers crossed you have it in a bank box somewhere."
Yeah, holy cow.
So, but all the documents that they have in the abstract come from our office, so we do try and educate about that part of it. So.
All right. So other than an abstract, what are some key records that you oversee, and why are they so important? Abstract, obviously, now we all know why that's important.
Yeah. I don't know that there's one certain document that's more important than others. It just kind of depends on what the person's need is. What may be important to you may not be important to the next person that comes through the door. So
makes sense.
It just kind of being able to be that smiling face and that one-stop shop. So.
All right, so this is where the fun kind of begins here.
Aren't we still haven't we been having fun?
I think so. I think so. This question, I had thought to myself, what was it like 30 or 40 years ago when there was just probably papers upon papers upon papers stacked everywhere? How has technology changed your line of work?
Oh my goodness. So I was not in office at that time, but we are really pushing the modernization and digitization of our records because it is so important, and we have so much history in our office. But seeing the amount of documents that we record electronically now, opposed to what comes in over the counter, the actual physical copies of paper is dwindling. But keeping that modernization and the digitization is something I'm very passionate about. When I first started in office in 2015. In that December, we had somebody broke into the courthouse and shot a fire extinguisher everywhere. And
I remember that.
All I can think of is what happens to our records in our history if they would have gotten into the building. So we have worked very, very hard to digitize our records, to make things so we have backups.
So let's say somebody comes in with a paper document. Do you digitize that instantly now, or is that something that...
It's a part of the process. So yes, so it will get recorded, and then part of the recording process is in digitizing it. And then after that, it gets sent back to the return to person on the document.
Okay. So they get to keep the physical copy.
They get the physical copy back. Okay. Now, that being said, if you would happen to lose that piece of paper or what have you, you can come into our office and we can issue a certified copy for a fee. And the certified copy is just as good as the original.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Cool. That's good.
So those that happen to lose, going in the future, there's going to be a document for them eventually that they can get if something were to happen. Because I know one of the things in California right now is the lock boxes didn't survive the fires, and jewelry is just melted. Paper is incinerated inside them, and
I can't even imagine.
So we talked a little bit about how technology changes everything. I guess another question I have along those lines is, are you retroactively going back and digitizing things into the past then? Or is that is it something that you're working into your day-to-day, everyday work? So if you're just I got an hour here, I'm going to go back. Okay. She's just shaking her head. Yes.
Very passionate. So, yes, the whole team, I have to give a shout out to my team. We wouldn't be where we are today without them. I couldn't do the things that I do without them. So, I do want to give them a plug here too, because they are the bread and butter of what we have going in the county recorder's office. So, yes. So just last 2 years ago, we had gotten some ARPA funding. So we digitized 500,000 records for just under $300,000. So right now what we're really working on, two of us are working on back verifying those records. And then we do have some in the office that we were able to digitize ourselves. So then those are all being scanned and then going through a verification process to make sure that when they're digitized, then we want to be able to find them. So we also want to index them. So we have records back to the 1800s. So right now we're sitting in really good shape in the county recorder's office.
Yeah, you mentioned some digitizing is one thing, but having it in a database that you can go find it all is another whole battle in and of itself.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is so we have a lot of these, when we did all that digitization, we have them on hard drives. And so then going back to make sure that actually matches what the book has, and then getting those ones from the hard drive into our software system, which also costs money. And so that's one of the big initiatives that the County Recorders Association is working on this year is a fee modernization increase, because our recording fees haven't been increased since 1985, which, to put in perspective, the price of stamp has tripled in that amount of time.
Yes.
So, making sure that we're setting ourselves up for the future, and because it all costs money.
Well, and people don't realize software is expensive.
Oh my goodness, it's so expensive.
Because that's what we deal with here, is talking to clients, and they're going, well, you just do this. Yeah, but in order to do that, we have to pay for the software.
Well, and then you got to have the storage to all of
the storage, the everything on there, and then the person to do the work.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think one of the things a lot of people forget is software is no longer one pay and done. It's subscription based now. Everything is subscription based. I mean, it's nice for the software companies because they get a check every month, but at the same time, it gives them the ability to update things. Instead of doing it once every year or every couple of years, then you have to buy the new software. They just get to update it almost every month or every week or whenever they want to. So that would be the benefit of going that route.
For sure.
So we talked a little bit about somebody breaking in and possibly spraying a fire extinguisher around. So what are some things you've done to ensure the security integrity of these records? The integrity wise, you had mentioned that you digitize them and then you're going back and re-verifying them, so what other things are you going about? I mean, digitizing in of itself is probably...
That is, our main focus and part of our mission and vision in the County Recorder's Office revolves around the history and the integrity of the record, because without that record, we can't, or the mortgage companies can't do their thing. They can't sell property. The realtors can't do their thing. The abstractors can't do their thing. So another thing with that is making sure that the documents are the true and correct copy. We're very sticklers on that, making sure that they're the original copies.
Well, it's not like just
integrity of the record.
Sticking it in a scanner.
No.
It's much more detailed than that. It's not like what people would think of in their office when they scan something. It's much more detailed.
Yep. So we have a label on the document that has the instrument number that we'll be able, and then it has a timestamp. It has the county's information. It has the fee that is associated with it. And then, so that label then is read through our software system. So then that correlates the two.
Okay. All right. I mean, that again, it sounds very, very involved. This is one of those things. Every time I come into this podcast, I'm like, I think I get this, and then you start to get a little deeper into the conversation. Like, okay, this is a lot more involved.
That's why
now Peter wants to come to the county recorder's office and hang out with us, don't you?
I do. I want to go in there and see what's going on.
Well, he's very analytical, so yes, he would enjoy that.
I very much would.
Yeah.
You know, most of my first few months here is basically digitizing and recording stuff. So like, I'm in on this.
Yeah. So in our vault, we have floor to ceiling books. So just kind of put that into perspective of the amount of records that we have in the office. So
I think somebody on a Facebook page asked what books that you were looking at when you were on a Facebook post. From Junior Leadership and Leadership Fort Dodge. Yeah. They were asking where are all those books? I'm trying to think. Oh, I know. It was Chelsea. At Kingsgate.
Okay.
And she was asking, so tell us about the books or something like that.
Yeah. So those, the books that we had pulled was, to see the history and the way that we have progressed throughout time. So one of the first books that I like to show is the book written in calligraphy.
Okay.
So, kind of fascinating yet a little bit scary because the only cursive I use is my signature. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of younger generations that aren't even doing that. So being able to read it and then being able to understand it. So those books back in the 1800s were written in calligraphy. Then they went into what we call a photostat, which is the black background and the white writing. And then it went into like the regular, what we're used to seeing, black font with a white piece of paper. And then from there it went into a digital recording process. So,
I mean, maybe this is out of your wheelhouse. What was the point of photostat? Well, why reverse everything from the way we know it now? I don't know. I don't know if that was the only thing that they knew at the time. I look back to like some of our records are on aperture cards and microfilm. Mm-hmm. And so there again, that is all well and great if it's stored in the appropriate temperature, if it's, in the appropriate location, environment. Right now we have some backscan records in a salt mine in Hutchinson, Kansas. So, just kind of, I think what they had available at the time. I think that's what we're so passionate about is making sure that these documents are digital and up in the times of what we're used to seeing on a daily basis so that in the future, they can be read and can easily be found. Mm-hmm. I mean, that makes sense as far as like following along with the times. Mm-hmm. Carbon copies, something common to us, not really used anymore. People are probably like, what was a carbon copy and why would you use one like that?
Right.
Why not just write it down twice? It's like, well, this is how they did it. You know?
Exactly.
You think about like a check, when you'd write a check, they'd have the carbon copy underneath it. Anybody still writing checks? I don't even know.
Occasionally, if it's absolutely necessary for something with the kids.
So we talked a little bit about accessibility of these records. Are these records accessible to the public, or is it something they have to come to you and then ask you to access the records? And if they're accessible to the public, how do you keep them secure?
Yeah. So Iowa is very fortunate. We have what we call Iowa land records. It's in the statute. All 99 counties submit their documents to Iowa land records. So it's another form of backup for us as well. So all 99 counties participate in that as a back scan, but then we also electronically record through that system as well. So that being said, they're available to the public through Iowa land records. It's a username that you have to set up as a registered user, username, password. The general public only is allowed a certain amount of clicks per day to ensure that they're not going in and a random person going in and harvesting records. But then in the county, if we only in Webster County for right now are available 1999 to current, that is something that we're working on getting more information up to Iowa land records so people can easily access it. However, it takes time and the staffing, but then we also, when we had an opportunity when I was looking for different vendors for our backscan project, we had the opportunity to then have a public facing website. And, I thought a lot about that and the fact that when you have those public facing websites, those records are then the company's record. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want that. Those are Webster County's records. We have the authority. There's been times that they have been hacked and then they're down. And so I wanted to make sure that when we post those out, they're out in one location with Iowa land records and not just available.
So like when we talk about recording records, has it changed over time how people do this? We talked about like maybe on different sheets of paper or different types of things like that, but has the general process changed over time? I guess I don't know how long you've been there, about 10 years, maybe, I think you said
10 years.
Has it changed too much since you've been there?
Not really. We've changed software systems, but that the process is still the same of we, collect the payment, can't do anything without payment. And then we put the record up, make it of record.
Okay. All right.
But it's funny to look back, some of the older, prior to having computers, they used what we call a fee book. And so everything was handwritten. So you can see, who brought it in, who paid what, and then just to watch their like balancing process. And then when I first started, our balancing was all through Excel spreadsheets and all that. And now we don't need Excel spreadsheets because we have software that helps us do that. So
that changes this a little bit. So like, when you transitioned into doing digital records, which is something that was big on your part when you first started, how did that change the daily operations there?
The amount of work that we still have the same amount of work as far as we're still doing the same things. It's just done in a different way. For instance, like with electronic recording, we're still doing the same amount of work. We're still collecting payment. We're still doing that. It's just the way it's done. And sometimes with computers, it can be done a little quicker, which allows us more time to get to the back scanning records and the things that we need to have done in the office as well.
All right. So that has changed everything a little bit there.
Yeah.
You're still doing all the same things, but this allows you, like you said, time to go do all your back scanning, which is something that we've brought it up almost every question on this podcast. It seems to be something that's very important to you. It's
very passionate,
very high on your list. So,
well, and that just even being said too, with our boats, snowmobiles, and ATVs, off-highway vehicles, we have digitized all of those records. So that was something that also we have been very passionate about, in the fact that if somebody were to break into the office, they would have access to a social security number, they would have access to a driver's license, they would have your whole name, address, telephone number, all that information. And so having that available electronically in a confidential record for our staff to see only, having it in a file folder.
So you had talked a little bit about
cabinet.
You talked a little bit about documentation of stuff, and like you need the original copy. How do you go through and verify that? Is there like a process that you go through, or do you? I mean, I'm assuming you don't just take somebody's word for it when they walk in with a sheet of paper that's signed and say, "This is the official one. Here you go."
Yeah. So the document is most of the time is a wet signature, and then it's notarized. We cannot accept something that's not notarized. Now, when Iowa did pass a law a couple years ago now, where we can accept electronic recording or electronic notaries and signatures. So that being said, it has to state that it was audio-visual used to notarize this record. But then those notaries are required to keep a log. And when they're audio-visual, they have to also have the film storage of all of that. So, so there is that, because with the notary, then you can go back and see the notary, their commission number. So then you can, if there was something in question, you can go back and see that.
Yeah, notaries used to like keep a book or something too, didn't they? Something like that. Now, I'm assuming, like you said, digital. If they're doing audio, video, then you have to have the space to save that. That kind of brings me back to my mortgage days. Every now and then they kind of started allowing for that. Oh, we can allow remote notaries and stuff like that. They even started for certain documents allowing DocuSign. So that's like, for people that don't know, it's like a digital signature that is authenticated as your own signature. Correct. Is that allowed for you? Because you said wet signature.
Yeah. Well, and there again, if it's noted that it says that it was signed in audio, using audio-visual or whatever, there's certain vendors that are using it more and more than others.
Okay, so they're allowed to use DocuSign in certain situations, depending on what's going on.
You just always cringe because it's part of the security of that there are a lot of individuals that are very nervous about it, and rightfully so. Property fraud's a real deal, and we're not seeing it, knock on wood, much in Iowa, but I am a member of the Property Records Industry Association, It's a national association with members from all over the country. There's over 1,000 of us. And that is something that they're seeing. So with our modernization initiative, with the County Recorders Association is proposing with the legislature this year, is having a property fraud alert or property alert sort of system where you would sign up and then you would be able to get notification like, hey, something in Webster County was recorded with your name on it.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit more retroactive, but better than than not know. Yeah, so that's something that we're really trying to push through. I have looked through certain vendors, and it's anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 for if we would implement something like that in Webster County, and we just don't have the funding to do that right now. So that this would provide an opportunity through the legislature to break down the money differently.
Yeah, I assume that the 2020 crisis of sorts was something that kind of impacted how you guys did business. And did that spark any changes? I mean, this isn't on the little docket here, but
our recording fees recording numbers were increased in 2020, which I don't know what exactly had to play in that, but learning to navigate a new normal, I guess, is the biggest thing there.
So what about like legal processes, like let's say real estate transactions, name changes? Is that something else? I think you mentioned that when
legal name change.
Yeah.
So legal name changes are done through the clerk of district court, but there is, if they have real property in that county, the county clerk or the clerk of district court is required by law to send those to us. It's kind of sticky because they don't collect payment for those. So then we have to then send those to the property owner, and then they have to then bring it back into us or mail it back into us with payment. So that would be filed in our office. But legal process, it's always hard because they come to, I need to just change the name, or my spouse passed away, unfortunately. And so then I need to change the property out of our name together. And we always recommend seeking legal counsel. I'm not an attorney. I know what is required by law to record a document. I don't know what's all supposed to be in the document to make it do what you want it to do. Iowa does allow you to prepare your own document. However, a lot of times when we do see the individuals that prepare their own document, they're in and out of the office multiple times because, like I said, we are to make sure that they follow document formatting standards, have everything that we are required by law to have, not necessarily making it legal. So that's one of the things that we really try and push to them, like seek legal counsel to make sure it's done legally and correctly. In the long run, it's going to save you time and money. Time and money
for sure.
So
I remember that was something, again, hearkening back to my mortgage adjustment days. It was always going back and forth with the title,
right.
And it was something like, well, we recorded it and we got it done. And it's like, it's still not going to work for what we need to do to pass it on to the people we need to pass it on to. So we need to have you change this.
Right.
And it was always so tough to tell someone like, you got to go do it again, and I don't know. I guess that's where having some legal counsel would definitely help out in that situation. Cause like you said, you know what you need to do for your job, but
right.
you don't know where this document might be going afterwards that somebody else needs to do for their job.
Yes.
So that might be something that maybe the general public just doesn't know.
They don't. Yes, they don't. And that's the thing is they come to us and, you get the spouse that, like I said, just lost their husband or wife. And you're just like, I'm sorry, like I'm here for you to support you, but I can't help you. And that's kind of one of the hardest parts about our job is, when they come to you for help and nothing's worse than I can't help you or,
Yeah, because you really can't tell them exactly what to do.
No, yeah.
You can say this isn't correct, but you can't tell them what they have to do to make it correct either.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is, then it's, well, who do you recommend for an attorney? I can't tell you that either.
Yeah.
Google land attorneys in Webster County or property attorneys in Webster County. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even need to be Webster County. It can be anywhere in the country, really. But then, we see different documents come from out of state, and those, again, they have different rules and regulations that they are to follow. So we do see those coming back.
Yeah, you mentioned like not being able to recommend, attorney. I guess that's one of those things where I didn't think about it until you mentioned it. And it's like, that's a good safeguard, because then you're not like monopolizing one part of an industry or something from your position.
Right.
So you mentioned collaborating with, was it the clerk of district courts for like name changes, things like that. Are there any other, like, let's say offices either in this, in the city or in the community statewide that you work with on a daily basis or a monthly basis or in any capacity to get this stuff done?
Absolutely. Every day. Whether it be the assessor, the auditor, the treasurer. We just had a department head meeting this morning that included all department heads across the county. Then you go to the state and you have the state agencies that we're involved with, the Department of Health and Human Services for all of our vital records, our birth, death, and marriage licenses. We have the Department of Natural Resources for the hunting licenses and fishing licenses, and then our registration for boats, snowmobiles, and ATVs. Then the Department of Revenue, because we also collect money. So then we, every month we send money to the Department of Revenue. So, there's those key stakeholders that we have involved. The abstractors, we talk to them on the daily. They're in our office on the daily. Financial institutions, attorneys, our legislators. It's a wheelhouse, it's funny because my husband teases me. It's like, we can't go anywhere without you knowing anyone. Yeah. And then my kids are like, Mom, would you please stop talking? And I'm like, I'm sorry, you're never going to get in trouble when you get older, because I'm always going to find out about it.
So you do a lot of collaborations with, other offices, either local or statewide.
Right.
And, it's one of those things I guess I didn't realize that much went on, but 20 minutes into this podcast, it's like, I guess you do a lot of this stuff. And then you started mentioning hunting licenses. Well, I guess, that is DNR,
Right.
And then I didn't really think about how many different organizations there are, on a state level that you probably have to interact with.
Right.
Like you said, almost on a daily basis, it's really wild. It's one of those things I didn't realize the scope of this until,
Absolutely.
Or the magnitude of this until I started asking some questions about it.
For sure. Well, and then even our state partners with the DNR, Webster County has the largest OHV park in the state. So then you also have riders coming from all over the state as well as out of state. And so then they're required to have certain documentation on their machine. And so we just had like a DNR officer in last week, different things are happening. And so it's like, okay, what are we doing about this? What are we doing about this? So that collaboration is super important.
So let's talk about a little bit about like the services that you offer. The question I had was, how do you ensure that they're transparent and easy to use by the public? Is that like a concern, or is that something that is a necessity?
So I have a 4-year degree in organizational communications.
Nice.
So I have a tendency to over communicate, I think, sometimes, if that's a thing.
No, I don't think it's a thing.
So that is super important to know, for constituents to know where their taxpayer dollars are going. We try and it's evident on social media, try and stay active in that platform. Anytime that there are key things happening to the office, we try and use news media, whether that be paper or radio, those sorts of things. And then like for our renewals for boats, snowmobiles, ATVs, the state does not provide us funding to issue renewals like the DOT does for the treasurer's office. So we're trying to get creative, and we've been collaborating amongst the office. So the last 4 years, we have collected email addresses. So I send out emails when it's renewal season. And so our boats will send out here, they're coming due, they're on a 3-year cycle. So we'll send those out to the boats that we have about 1,000, we're well over 1,000 on our ATVs. So we're trying to be good stewards of taxpayer money while still getting their information to them.
So you just described setting up a CRM for your boats. Yes, a customer relation management, so that you can contact them.
Yep.
On there.
I could say, like, I didn't realize what all you were talking about until when we got to the end. I was like, oh, this is like what they would do. And I'm from Humboldt County. They would post it on like the very top of the Humboldt paper as like an announcement where it's just like, boats and ATVs, you need to get your stuff registered, because it's like getting to be that time, and the county recorder there would do something like that. Or like, I don't think they ever did like a billboard, but I feel like they did a pretty good job of like letting the public know, like, hey, it's time.
Absolutely.
So we need to get this taken care of. And, I guess it's just weird. I never really realized all the processes you had to go through to do all this stuff. Or, I guess I figured it would just be like as easy as just like, just send out letters. But then again, you have to think like letters and stamps and the time it would take and everything. So I guess an email is better, and if you have a local paper, it's probably easier, but maybe not every county has one of those,
Well, and then if you don't have the membership to that paper, you're not, getting that, so it's, people trying to come to people where they're at. So thinking of outside the box of, okay, we're seeing more and more people using social media. Can we push that information? Can we share that information with each other? So then people start sharing it. So then it hits their timeline of people. And then you have that, it keeps swirling around and around. So,
well, and you brought up the email part of it, but I always say that there's two forms of contact that people don't change regularly. And that's usually their email. Mm-hmm. And that's also usually their cell phone
number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on there. Their landline may go away, but
right.
they pretty much keep their cell phone number the same. So if anybody's going to gate or collect any kind of information to get back to them, those would be the two that you want to go for.
Absolutely. Well, and the other thing too with the mail is when they move and then you just wasted that money on, I sent this out, but yeah, it's not getting to the person I needed to get to. So then it's...
Yeah.
And you get it back with no forwarding address.
No.
Yep. So you're out paperwork, you're out a letter, you're out stamp, envelope.
And then the staff time to do it.
The time to do it. That's invaluable. Honestly, time is invaluable.
Time is money.
Yes, very much.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis? And if there are some, how do you overcome them?
Yeah. Every day is a different day. You never know what is going to come. I think one of the biggest challenges is funding, having the funding available. And then education, we try and educate as much as we can, but at the end of the day, we only have a certain amount of time. And so educating the public of what's required to transfer machines, vessels, so that to save them time, because nothing's more frustrating to them when they come in and they don't have XYZ filled in their paperwork, and then we have to send them away. And did they just take their lunch hour to come to us to do that? Or, and we want to be respectful of their time as well. So trying to really educate the public, and it would be probably the hardest thing in the fact that I'm a taxpayer too, and I want to provide the best service, and our team wants to provide the best service. So being able to help them where they're at, to get them in the right direction.
That is a very good reminder to everybody listening. The city employees are also taxpayers, so yes. they want this to work efficiently as well. So looking forward, what are some opportunities you have for improvement, and how do you plan on going about them? Or do you have any plans? We had talked earlier about when you got in, it was digitizing things and going through the back catalog of all of the records that you had to, digitize and verify. What about going forward? Is it just more of the same, or
more of the same, and just following the statutes that as they come through? There's some things that we're going to be required to do that we don't have the time or the place to do it. So it just keeping going with where we're at, and then as problems arise, being on the forefront and really eye-opened to and being open to change. That's the only constant in this world is change. And so if you can't adapt, there's an issue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're getting down to the end of this. I ask everybody the same question at the end of every podcast. Can you name a time in your life when marketing impacted you and you possibly didn't know it until afterwards? Doesn't have to be with your job. Could be day-to-day life.
I don't know.
I can't believe it. She was totally stumped right there.
I'm not usually speechless.
That's right. I know.
But
I was counting the seconds in that silence. It's not Lindsay.
That's not me. No. I think that's my background though too, is like trying every time you meet and are engaged with somebody or something, there's an opportunity to connect with someone that, oh man, what are some of the answers you've received in the past?
Oh, wow. Business to business marketing was one of them. So somebody was like, I didn't realize I needed this product until a vendor came to me and offered it to me. Okay. So there'd be one. Otherwise, a lot of what we get is I'm watching football on the weekends and now I'm hungry.
Yes. I was just going to bring that one up. That one's been real popular the last
and in their defense, mine was always ice cream. So if I saw ice cream on TV, like 20 minutes later, there's like one in my hand.
You're going to get ice cream.
Yeah. I didn't even realize I was doing it.
Yeah.
There's Ben and Jerry's in my hand.
Another one would be an example such as Target. You don't even have to see that it says Target or anything. Any of the packaging, everything they do, you only have to see just a portion of it, and you already know it's Target.
It's Target, yeah.
Or that would be an example of branding that you don't realize it until.
Well, and I think that's the other part is like, and it's important for people to know, like, you're always building your brand.
That's right.
And, you know, people always ask, why do I wear pink? And maybe that's my answer.
There you
know,
go.
like,
Because everybody remembers Lindsay for her pink.
Well, and that's just it. Because this morning I ran into a gal from Iowa Central, and she's like, I thought of you because I bought a pink jacket, you know? And so maybe that's it. Building my brand in pink.
There you go.
There you go. It only took 3 minutes. I'm not usually speechless.
Well, this has been a great episode. I got to say thank you, Lindsay, for taking time out of your day.
Absolutely.
You're obviously very busy. If anybody wants to hear some more entertaining content with Lindsay, go check out the Talk 4 Dodge episode she was on. Now that you made it all the way through this one, definitely go check that one out. There's some chuckles in there as well. I was sitting behind the producer desk for that one. So it was a good time. It was a really good time. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for enlightening us on what goes on at the county recorder's office. Again, this is something where when I came into the podcast, I thought to myself, I kind of have an idea of what goes on there. And then you realize, oh, this is a lot of work. You know, it just, at first I was, like you said, I thought to myself, this is just scanning documents in a scanner and then you're done. It's not that easy. No. So there's a lot that goes on down there, and there's a lot of duties that everybody has to take care of. So thank you very much. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You bet.
We're very proud of the work that we do. So I'm always excited to share about it. So.
You should be proud.
Thank you.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital. Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market. Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarket.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarket.com. That's digitalagent@spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026. Or visit our website at www.spinmarket.com.